Liberia, Côte d'Ivoire, Sierra Leone, Togo, and across Senegal. Don't miss our daily news bulletins, newsletter, educative and informative programs, and lots more. West Africa Democracy Radio, 94.9 FM. It's you speaking.
WADR. You can listen to us on 94.9 FM in Dakar through our website www.wadr.org. WADR. Promoting dialogue.
It's 6 p.m. in Dakar and Monrovia, 7 o'clock in Lagos. Good evening and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and worldwide at wadr.org. Welcome to Newslink. Here are the top stories. Liberian government secures non-permanent seat on United Nations Security Council for the first time since 1961.
This is the moment of honor and humility for our 178-year-old republic, Africa's first independent nation, whose long, storied journey continues to inspire.
The death toll from Mokwa flood disaster in Nigeria's Niger State rises to over 200. International NGOs call for the release of Niger's CSO's actor Chiganri, and Norwegian Refugee Council releases 2024 World's Most Neglected Displaced Crisis Index.
So Cameroon is impacted by three different humanitarian crises in three different regions of the country. Now experience a quite large scale of internal displacement, with more than 1 million people being internally displaced, but also more than 500,000 people being refugees coming from Nigeria, Central African Republic.
Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
Here is Augustine Coley with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining our broadcast. This edition opens in Liberia as the government has attained a non-permanent seat on the United Nations Security Council, marking a significant milestone in its diplomatic history. Since the country last held this esteemed position in 1961, it has demonstrated its commitment to global peace and security. Running unopposed, the oldest independent West African nation required 128 votes but successfully garnered 181. Following the announcement, Liberian President Joseph Boakai expressed deep gratitude, emphasizing that this victory is not only a triumph for Liberia, but also a testament to the nation's resilience and dedication to promoting peace and stability on the global stage. The Liberian leader reaffirmed the country's commitment to representing the interests of not only its own citizens, but also those of other nations.
Respectful of a new chapter in our nation's history. The United Nations Security Council has honored us with a non-permanent seat for 2026-2027. Peace and dedication to global cooperation. We extend our deepest gratitude to all UN member states for their confidence. This is the moment of honor and humility for our 178-year-old republic, Africa's first independent nation, whose long, storied journey continues to inspire. Our election is not just a national achievement. It symbolizes Africa's perseverance and is a tribute to generations of Liberians who have held firm to freedom, self-governance, and global solidarity. From our role in the League of Nations and as the founder member of the United Nations to our contribution to Africa's independence, Liberia has always punched above its weight on the global stage.
Liberian President Joseph Boakai is speaking. However, this non-permanent seat is for 2026 to 2027. Still in Liberia, a 35-year-old woman identified as Esther Bawo has been charged with child custody and human trafficking offenses. Authorities alleged that Bawo unlawfully transported 3 minors aged 14, 16, and 18, along with 2 adults from Monrovia to Wadr without obtaining parental consent. The victims were reportedly taken under the guise of trading, highlighting serious breach of authorization. She is set to face prosecution in the Wadr Magisterial Court, southeast of the country. In light of this, Liberia's Labour Minister, Councillor Cooper Kral, has urged the public to remain vigilant and collaborate to combat human trafficking and safeguard vulnerable individuals.
We managed to have the police involved, and she was arrested, and the police conducted thorough investigation, and she was charged for trafficking. Now she will be prosecuted in Grand Jury. By the time we get confirmation that the trial is about to begin, we will send another lawyer from Monrovia to associate with the county attorney in Grand Jury. The victims that were taken to Grand Jury by her were one Princess Weir, age 18, Blessing Gozuba, age 14, Fomanta Sheriff, age 16, Kayatu Bar, age 16, and Grace Page, age 20. Again, we think these acts are in violation of our penal code and our revised law on human trafficking. So we want to make sure we follow this matter up. And for the past years, last year we got full cooperation from the U.S. Embassy, working along with us from our DLO. We conducted several training to really enhance the efficiency of our people.
Liberia's Labour Minister, Councillor Cooper Kra. In Nigeria, the death toll from the Mokwa flood disaster in Niger State has risen to more than 200. This was confirmed by the Commissioner for Humanitarian Affairs in Niger State, Ahmed Suleiman. Commissioner Suleiman said the Umar Bago administration in the north-central state has activated an emergency response and directed the distribution of relief materials to the displaced victims of the floods who are housed in makeshift camps.
The numbers, nobody can tell you the number of casualty in Niger State right now, because up to now, the cops, we're still looking for them, and the numbers of them, when we tell you this is the actual number, by now we have more than 200 numbers of casualty or cops. But we're still looking for more, because we were told by the Mapa local government that they still discovering cops up to now. So we are trying to wait for them and know the actual number of cops before giving you this is the figures. But now, sincerely speaking, we cannot ascertain. When I can estimate the number, it will be by now it's more than 200 to 300. That is why I told you I will not give you the actual number of it. But the disaster is a natural disaster, not about the poor government. But as I'm telling you right now, the Niger State government put things in place. And there are a lot of contribution from various agencies and ministries.
Ahmed Suleiman is the Commissioner for Nigeria's Humanitarian Affairs in Niger State. Meanwhile, as international donor support for health interventions continues to decline, the World Health Organization is calling on the Nigerian government to take ownership of its health priorities through increased domestic investment. This call comes amid the signing of a new $2.26 million partnership between WHO and the Tiwa Danjuma Foundation in Nigeria, which aims to strengthen the country's health system over the next decade. Yechenu Sasitu in Abuja reports.
At a high-level event in Abuja, the World Health Organization called on the Nigerian government to achieve a resilient and equitable health system to avoid being reliant on donor aid. The event focused on scaling up local financing for healthcare delivery in the country. WHO country representative Dr. Walter Mulumbu urged Nigerians, especially private sector leaders, indigenous philanthropists, and corporate bodies to take greater responsibility by funding local health initiatives.
It's unprecedented. It's time for Africa to look inward and to end dependency. It's not normal for the whole world to collapse just because one country said we are not contributing.
Also present at the ceremony was the United Nations resident coordinator in Nigeria, Mohammed Fall, who described the agreement as a model for sustainable development.
It is my hope that this partnership will not just stop between WHO and T.Y. Danjuma Foundation. And we are looking forward to have this partnership serve as a blueprint, serve as a precedent to many more partnerships to come.
On the part of the Nigerian government, Chairman of the House Committee on Health, Amos Magaji, lauded the timely partnership.
This collaboration has come at a very, very critical period. Many programs in health, maternal health care, HIV program have suffered greatly because of the exit of our major donor.
The partnership, in effect until 2034, aims to support WHO's ongoing country work and prioritize integrated healthcare delivery for vulnerable groups, especially women and children in Taraba, Edo, and Enugu states. For WADR, this is Yechenu Sasitu reporting from Abuja.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Crossing over to the Central Sahel region, particularly Niger, as international non-governmental organizations are calling for the release of civil society actor Musa Shangari, who has been detained for 6 months. He was arrested on December 3, 2024 and charged with criminal conspiracy in connection with a terrorist enterprise undermining national defense and a conspiracy against state authority. Imo Edit completes the story.
Leading international human rights organizations, including Amnesty International, the International Federation for Human Rights, Human Rights Watch, and the World Organization Against Torture, have called for the immediate release of Musa Shangari. The Secretary General of the NGO Alternative Espace Citoyen has been held in pre-trial detention for 6 months. Since his transfer to Filige prison, located 170 kilometers from the capital Niamey, there has been no public communication or legal hearing concerning his case. Usman Jallo, Amnesty International senior researcher on the Sahel, expressed concern over the prolonged silence and inaction in Shangari's case. He said it is surprising that, despite the serious nature of the charges, Musa Shangari has still not yet been heard by the senior investigating judge. Amnesty International senior researcher added that the judge appears to be relying on the fact that under Nigerian law, pre-trial detention in terrorism-related cases can legally extend up to 4 years, an approach that Jallo had described as a barely veiled threat. Jallo further criticized the practice as damaging to both the legal process and the rule of law in Niger. In Niger, individuals who publicly express dissent or criticize authorities are increasingly subjected to arrest and prolonged detention, often as part of a judicial strategy to punish them by keeping them incarcerated for as long as possible.
Imo Edit with that report. Let's turn our attention to legal matters in Benin, where reactions are emerging following the 2-year prison sentence handed down against online activist Steve Amusu. Amusu, who denies the charges against him, was also ordered to pay a fine of 2 million CFA francs, approximately $3,500. However, one of his lawyers, Abubakar Babarapi, responded swiftly to the verdict on Monday. Although his client has 2 weeks to file an appeal, Counsel Babarapi stated that he will not be able to challenge the sentence. Here is an extract of his reaction.
Vraiment, on est déçu par rapport à un dossier qui n'en est pas un. We are really disappointed with a case that is not one. We were looking at the articulation of the facts and the way in which our client was removed and brought back to justice. And above all, the victims were exposed as a means of defense. And from the expectations of the entire population, we were entitled to a fair justice. I would say that there is a kind of inequity in this procedure because the accusations did not provide the proof that it was a crime. We were truly entitled to wait for a more recent release, or at least a release for the benefit of doubt.
Councillor Abubakar Babarape is a lawyer of Benin's activist Steve Amusu. You are listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Here is a reminder of our top stories. Liberia secures non-permanent seat on United Nations Security Council for the first time since 1961. The death toll from Mokwa flood disaster in Nigeria's Niger state rises to over 200. International NGOs call for the release of Niger's CSO's actor Shangari. Still ahead in the news, Norwegian Refugee Council releases 2024 World's Most Neglected Displaced Crisis Indexed. We also have guest interview and sports news. Please stay with us.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Madam, thanks for staying with us. We're streaming live on YouTube at WADR News and on Facebook, WADR English Service. Now to Ghana, where former Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta has once again been declared a wanted man by the Office of the Special Prosecutor. This follows his failure to appear in person for questioning, despite multiple invitations from the OSP in connection with ongoing investigations into alleged corruption and financial misconduct during his time in office. WADR's Accra correspondent Nadia Didite reports.
The Special Prosecutor Kisija Bing says the patience of his office has run out with Mr. Ofori-Atta, who has failed to honor repeated invitations to respond to ongoing criminal proceedings. At a press briefing on Monday, June 2, the OSP rejected a request by the former minister's legal team for a virtual session citing medical treatment abroad.
If we were amenable to taking any such statement from Mr. Ofori-Atta in absentia, we would have done so in February and not waited to 2 June 2025. We want him here physically and we insist on it. A suspect in a criminal investigation does not pick and choose how the investigative authority should conduct its investigations and the method suitable to him and his convenience.
Ken Ofori-Atta has now been officially reinstated on the OSP's list of wanted persons and is considered a fugitive from justice.
His name is hereby re-entered on the OSP's list of wanted persons. The OSP will take all necessary legal steps to secure Mr. Ofori-Atta's return to the jurisdiction and to answer to the criminal inquiries against him. In pursuance of this, about 30 minutes before this briefing, I triggered processes for the issuance of an Interpol red notice for the location and provisional arrest of Mr. Kenneth Nanayao Ofori-Atta.
The issuance of an Interpol red notice could lead to Mr. Ofori-Atta's provisional arrest and extradition from any jurisdiction. The former Minister of Finance is under investigation for a number of high-profile cases, including suspected financial misconduct, money laundering, and causing financial loss to the state. Key areas under scrutiny include revenue deals between Strategic Mobilization Ghana Limited and the GRA, the termination of an ECG contract with Chinese firm BXC, the controversial National Cathedral project, procurement of ambulances, and the handling of the GRA Tax P Fund. For WADR, Nadia Didite, Accra.
Senegalese Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko is currently in Freetown, the Sierra Leonean capital, on a working and friendly visit. Ousmane Sonko landed at Elongay International Airport near Freetown from Guinea as part of the second leg of a tour he began in Côte d'Ivoire last week. He was welcomed by the Vice President of Sierra Leone and other officials. The Senegalese Prime Minister is meeting with Sierra Leonean President Julius Maada Bio at the State House. His agenda includes presentations on the mining and energy sectors, as well as a visit to the Marampal mining site located near the town of Lonsa. To electoral matters in Côte d'Ivoire, the country's electoral umpire will on Wednesday, June 4, publish the final electoral roll for the presidential election scheduled to be held in October this year. According to the Independent Electoral Commission, over 8 million voters have been registered following a recent revision of the electoral register. Abdullahi Hassan has the details.
According to the Independent Electoral Commission, the final electoral roll will be officially published on Wednesday, June 4th, and will be accessible on the Commission's website. The Commission President, Ibrahim Coulibaly Kubet, confirmed on Monday that the Commission has complied with all judicial rulings that led to the removal of several key opposition figures from the electoral register. Those affected include Tijan Cham of the PDCI, former President Laurent Gbagbo, former Prime Minister Guillaume Soro, and former Minister of Youth Affairs Charles Blé Goudé. All four had been declared presidential candidates by their respective political parties for the October election, but are now ineligible to contest the October polls. The final electoral list includes 8.7 million registered voters, an increase of 700,000 from previous figures. Here is Ibrahim Coulibaly Kubet speaking.
Elle peut comporter des imperfections, mais
it can have imperfections, but it is our electoral list. We must assume it without holding back, without passion, without belligerence. Together, we must improve it. The imperfections that are substantial and that were brought to the knowledge of the Independent Electoral Commission with support have been corrected. Those that, without being denounced, remain on the electoral list are made harmless thanks to the biometry that prevents them from affecting the sincerity of the scrutiny.
Donc fiable et crédible.
Meanwhile, the number of polling centers has risen to over 11,900, while polling stations now total more than 26,600. Presidential candidates have nearly 3 months to gather the necessary endorsements. To qualify, each must obtain signatures from at least 1% of the electorate in 17 of Côte d'Ivoire's 33 regions and districts. The submission deadline for presidential candidacies is set for the end of July.
Abdullahi Hassan with that report. Away from Côte d'Ivoire, the Norwegian Refugee Council NRC has released its 2024 World's Most Neglected Displaced Crisis Index, to which identifies Cameroon as the country with the most neglected displaced crisis globally. In the Council's World's Most Neglected Report index, Cameroon, Ethiopia, Mozambique, Burkina Faso, and Mali came as the top 5 countries worldwide facing high displacement crisis, yet has received little attention. According to the Regional Program Director of NRC Council, Annie Trihondat, the report seeks to draw diplomatic attention to the crisis for urgent solutions.
When it comes to Cameroon, the main reasons are that Cameroon is impacted by 3 different humanitarian crises in 3 different regions of the country, now experience a quite large scale of internal displacement, with more than 1 million people being internally displaced, but also more than 500,000 people being refugees coming from Nigeria or Central African Republic. Cameroon is a perfect example of totally neglected crisis because it brings very little attention from diplomatic actors. In general, there is very little efforts or actions that are made to support resolution of the different crises, including conflicts. In the meantime, there are very, very few media reports on what is going on in Cameroon. And finally, the level of humanitarian funding is also very low and is less than 50% of the coverage of the humanitarian response plan, which is the main tool used by humanitarian actors to raise funding to provide assistance.
Anne Trinonda is the Regional Program Director of the Norwegian Refugee Council, NRC.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
In this segment of Newslink, we continue discussions in Nigeria, where in a latest attack, at least 30 people have been confirmed dead and several others remain missing following coordinated attacks on the Gwa Western Upper Local Government area of Benue State, north central region of the country. Theophilus Samba, a journalist based in Benue State, tells us more about this incident.
The motivation is unclear for now because some say it's revenge mission. Some communities who rustle their cattle. Some say it's because those communities are communities where the herders were attacked. Their ancestors were attacked during the Usman Danfodio era. Others are saying they are just here to land grab. It's a complete takeover. It's an agenda to take over the lands because in places where some of the communities where the locals are displaced, we have the herders occupying those communities. They are staying, they are residing in those communities, using their houses, and other facilities that are there. So they've displaced in some communities and permanently inhabited. So some people are saying the motivation is a total takeover, a total grabbing of the land, especially most land, and probably some are saying even the whole of Benue State is their target. And they've come in from neighboring West African countries and other countries. And in fact, in Maiduguri, there was a report recently that there was a foreigner as well. There was a video evidence of a foreigner among a Pakistani national. From the looks of it, I saw a video like that was circulated on Twitter. And there was evidence of somebody who was amongst the attackers who was not in Nigeria. So the motivation for now is sketchy. It's unclear at the moment what the end motivation, the end agenda is at the moment. But the frequency most definitely there at the moment. Very frequent at the moment. Max 1 week, maximum 1 week at the moment is how frequent the attacks are coming in right now.
How would you describe those that have been killed, including those that have been kidnapped?
Sorry to paint the graphic picture. I saw a video of somebody whose hand was almost cut off. I know a bullet can do that, but a machete too can do it. I've seen serious deep cuts, so that can be bullets. So the attacks have been brutal. They've been very brutal attacks. So that's just how to describe it. Because of course, most times they come in the wake, they're in the dark, so they are not seen until they get to very close range. And then at that point blank range, the shots are usually brutal and injurious gravely injurious to the deceased and those who survive.
Would you mind stating whether or not most of those killed and kidnapped are farmers or herders?
I don't think we've had any reports, any known report of any herder killed. It's majorly the farmers that have been killed so far, and with name placed on many of them. Many of them are, your social media in Benue here, you see people mourning their loved ones who are majorly farmers. They put names on them.
Theophilus Samba is a journalist in Benue State, north central Nigeria. Now in the world of sports, Senegal's under-18 national team made a good start to the Union of European Football Association's Friendship Tournament, defeating Uruguay 4-0 in Switzerland. The UEFA Friendship Tournament, which opened during the weekend, will continue until June 10. The Lion clubs are participating for the first time in this tournament, bringing together 8 selections. And that's the latest in the world of sports. With that, we've come to the end of this edition of Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Mustafa Sek and Umun Dayogo for the technical assistance. I am Augustine Cully. Good evening.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, Newmi FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County,
Radio Kagama 94.5 FM, Nibe County, DCN Radio 91.3 FM, Riverside County, Wakat FM Radio, Banga, Liberia, Radio Baf FM 91.3 Sierra Leone.
For you listening via Radio Pad 95.1 Damango, Savannah region, and on Royals FM